Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this, our preview for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the final preview of the year. Here we are, everyone, the final F1 race weekend of the 2024 season. What could possibly be the final ever race weekend for the likes of Valtteri Bottas, Kevin Magnussen, Zhou Guanyu. We still don't know what's going on with Perez and Colapinto. It could be their last race weekends. Of course, the last time we'll see Hülkenberg in a Haas. The last time we'll see Carlos Sainz in a Ferrari. And the big one, of course, this weekend, the last time we will see Lewis Hamilton in a Mercedes. So we've got a lot to cover this weekend. So we got all the news to come up very soon, including all the stuff that's going on between Verstappen and George Russell right now. We'll touch on that. We've got special helmet street, which there's a few of, because, end of the season. We're going to have a few special helmets, of course. Upgrade corner, you may be surprised to hear, there is one. It's only a very short upgrade corner, but there is an upgrade corner nonetheless, so we'll get onto that as well. Then, of course, we will have the free practice roundup and our predictions as well. And as you all know, if you've been watching all season, I make 2 predictions in every preview video, and I haven't got a single one wrong all year. It's a streak which is unmatched in professional prediction of sport, and we will continue that streak today. Before we get into all that, though, remember to like and subscribe, and a huge shout out to our members, Dakota, The Joyous James, Robin Myers, and Cinnamon Strudel. Also, it's Advent calendar time, everyone, and there's an Advent calendar on the channel right now. We're doing the Red Bull model car Advent calendar thing, video every day. There's 6 of them. If you've missed them, they're all there for you. There's a playlist on the channel. You can just click it, you just play them. Isn't technology magical? Let's get into the news, everyone, starting with this whole Verstappen-Russell beef. Now, this all starts from last weekend's the Qatar Grand Prix, where in qualifying, Russell felt that Verstappen blocked him whilst he was on a build-up lap. Verstappen said he didn't. They went to the stewards. Verstappen got a 1-place grid penalty. And then from there, Verstappen the next day said he'd lost all respect for Russell. He'd never seen someone push so hard to have someone else have a penalty, and he has no respect for him. Since then, George Russell went, "You've given me a week with my PR team. I'm ready to say some stuff." So let's get into all of it. Yes, firstly, the quote from Verstappen last week was, "I've never seen someone try to screw someone over that hard." Verstappen made even stronger comments to Dutch television post-race, but Russell claims the 4-time champion threatens to intentionally take him out of the race. This is what Russell has said this weekend so far. He said, "I find it quite ironic seeing as Saturday night he said he was going to purposefully go out of his way to crash into me and put me on my effing head in the wall." Russell told select media, including Racer. So, to question someone's integrity as a person while saying comments like this the day before, I find it ironic, and I'm not going to sit here and accept it. People have been bullied by Max for years now, and you can't question his driving abilities, but he cannot deal with adversity. Whenever anything's gone wrong against him, Jeddah 2021, Brazil 2021, he lashes out. Budapest this year, the very first race the car wasn't dominant, crashing into Lewis, slamming his team. For me, those comments on Saturday night and Sunday were totally disrespectful and unnecessary. Because what happened on track, we fight hard, that's part of racing. What happens in the steward's room, you fight hard, but it's never personal. But he's taken it too far now. We've got a guy who's on top of the sport who feels he's above the law, and I don't think that's right. I admire his on-track battles, but when he's hard and aggressive, what we saw at the end of the season in 21, or what we saw in Mexico with Lando, they weren't hard, aggressive manoeuvres. They are do or die. I'm willing to take this guy out, which I don't think is the way we go racing. I honestly just want to set the record straight, because I think it's a total double standard, and it's a total double standard that he has for the regulations, and thinking he's above everyone else. So it's not me trying to assert my leadership style or anything, it's just someone who's come out and said, I'm a two-faced mother effer, and he's entitled to his opinions, but coming out and saying that publicly and slightly publicly, I'm just not going to accept it. I'm going to tell people the reality. He pushes himself to the absolute limit week in, week out, and 95% of those scenarios is incredible to see, and I have respect for him for that. But there have been incidents that's gone unpunished. Maybe that's why he thinks he can get away with murder, but that is not the world we live in. Actions have consequences. It can't just keep on you can't just keep going on like that. For me, it's interesting, the whole regard for him and his own team. They're doing their utmost to get Horner out of Red Bull, but at the very first weekend he wasn't competitive, he's slamming his team, and I know for a fact, a week after, a quarter of his engineering team were sending their CVs to Mercedes, McLaren and Aston. So I don't respect someone who doesn't appreciate those who give him a chance to perform, but these last 12 races, he's had a car that is of normal competitiveness, and he's been in the same fight as myself, Lewis, Charles, Carlos, Lando and Piastri, all have been, and this is how it should be. I feel like we all need to lead by example here. He's the biggest, most successful guy in the sport for the last couple of years. He can do what he wants in his own business, but when he starts throwing comments like he did on Sunday night about me, I'm not just going to sit and accept it. So that's George Russell's statement there. Obviously has worked very hard on it over the week that we've had, and it's a very good statement. I will look into it a bit more in a little bit, but of course, Max Verstappen has had his own thing to say here. He has said this: "That's not true. I did not say it like that. He's trying to exaggerate again. But do you know what else I can't stand? That he attacks me in an unacceptable way with the stewards, then comes back a day later as if nothing's wrong and slaps on the shoulder. Then I think, stay away for a while. He makes up all kinds of things that aren't true. With me, you always get the same. Here at home with the stewards, I don't change. You can say that about everyone, but I'm not surprised by that with him." He then went on to say, George is a backstabber, that he brings all this stuff up. He's just a loser. He lies and pastes all kind of things together that aren't true. I only gave my opinion about his behaviour with the stewards. He's clearly not into that. What he said about 2021, that's how it went down with the stewards. He insinuates a lot of things that don't make sense. When told that Russell was in tears, when told that Russell had tears in his eyes at one point, Verstappen cannot suppress his smile. He said, "It wasn't that dramatic at the stewards last week. Maybe next time it will be. I'll bring the tissues." So there's a lot to get into here about Russell's statement, and I'm going to try. I think generally what this isn't about racing standards. This isn't about trying to get over people's penalties. I think this all comes down to the way Max Verstappen thinks of integrity. Because with Max, you can say whatever you want about him, but you can't call him a liar. Because throughout his career, he has never lied, and he's never held his tongue. He's always had his heart on his sleeve. He's always said how he feels, to a fault sometimes, to a point where it's just like, Max, you don't need to say anything. He will say something, because he is a very honest person who will tell you exactly how he's feeling. And I think for someone like Max, lying is a huge thing that is against everything he believes in. So Max obviously feels that George, in the stewards, after the qualifying session, lied. And that goes against everything that he stands for, and that's what's upset him. And that's what's brought him round to this whole thing of not respecting him, because he feels that George lied about what happened to the stewards, and then Max got a penalty based on the lies that George Russell told. That, I think, is Max's viewpoint from there. That's what I think this is all about. But then you go into George's statement, right? And there's a lot to dissect here. So what's really quite interesting is, he says that Max said that he was going to purposely crash into him and put his head on the effing wall or whatever. What was also quite odd and kind of gone under the radar in this, I was watching FP1 before, and in that, David Croft said Max never swore. I think he said Max never swore in the steward's room. No idea how he knows that, but if that's true, that just goes to show George is lying again, unless George is talking about another incident. But there's a whole load of question marks around that statement, so I'm going to put that to the side right now. Let's just say that he said it, if we want to go from that. So he goes on to question. He says here, Budapest this year, the very first race his car wasn't dominant, crashing into Lewis and slamming his team. So there's a few things here. I think he's even admitted now that the whole crash into Lewis was a really stupid thing and was just him kind of trying to find the limits of a car that wasn't working. And as for slamming his team, I mean, find me a racing driver who hasn't. All we have to do is go back to last weekend in Qatar when Mercedes pit George onto the hard tyres and George has a radio message going, "Why are we on the effing hard tyres? They don't effing work." Is that George Russell slamming his team because things aren't going his way? The exact same thing that Max Verstappen is accusing Max of? I mean, there's a lot of hypocrisy in George's statement. That's number one. We go on to say it's never personal, he takes it too far. He also says that, like, I think I cut it out of the statement here, but he talks about how, threats of physical violence. What we also have to remember is the most recent physically violent thing we've seen in an F1 racetrack is George Russell hitting Valtteri Bottas because of their crash in Imola 2021. So hypocrisy number 2 from the George Russell statement there. There's just a lot here that, yes, you go, well, everyone does that, George. What are you going on about? I mean, the point here about engineers handing their CVs to Mercedes and McLaren and Aston, yeah, that could be true. We don't know if that's true or not. Mechanics move around all the time. We saw when Red Bull opened their Red Bull Ford engine stuff, they got loads of people from Mercedes to come across to jump into there. Also, with the whole people leaving Red Bull thing, how do we know that's directly linked to Max being unhappy and not the entire team breaking down because of the Christian Horner stuff? So I think there's a lot of adding stuff together and adding 2 and 2 together and getting 7 here. And as for, now we're all at normal competitiveness and that's the way it should be. Yeah, you're all at normal competitiveness and Max is still the best. He's still scored the most points. So it's just like, there's just a lot in this George Russell statement of, Max shouts at his team. So does everyone. Max was unhappy when his car wasn't very good. Yeah, well, so does everyone. Max pushed Esteban Ocon once. You hit Valtteri Bottas. It's like, it's just, look at yourself. You're doing the exact same thing. And then there's the whole thing of like, he pushes people off the track. And this is a thing that comes around with Max all the time, where people want to bring him down. They go, well, look, he pushed him off the track. It's like, everyone pushes everyone off the track. Watch any race, and there will be loads of of messages. He pushed me off. He pushed me off. He pushed me off. The only reason Maxes are so in the focus is because when he does it, it's normally near the front because that's where he is. It's not a battle for 8th or something like that. It's normally for the lead. And that's why he gets this high focus thing on it. And now it's become a thing that the media like to bring up time and time again. So I'm sure if we looked, we could find a clip of George Russell pushing someone off the track, but it would probably be for 7th, not for the lead. So it's not as high profile as when Max Verstappen does it. And if you're talking about just like driving etiquette, how many lap 1 incidents did George Russell have last year? Time and time and time again, and got away with it. He says in here again, Max Verstappen gets away with murder. Who is the only driver to have community service because he said a swear word in an FIA press conference? It's Max Verstappen. Everyone else got a fine. Who is the only F1 driver in F1 history to get a penalty for driving unnecessarily slow in a qualifying session? It's Max Verstappen, the man who gets away with murder, getting another penalty that no one else has ever received. Who was the driver who, at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, was on the front row of the race, and when the start was aborted, and you're not supposed to drive around the track because there was vehicles and marshals on the track, they drove round anyway and got away with a fine? Was that George Russell? The man who's complaining that someone else gets away with murder? It was Russell and Norris who were investigated for that, and they both got fines and no penalties. If you think Max Verstappen was on that front row and did that, they'd be talking about disqualifications and race bans. George Russell, earlier this year, crashed by himself, and Fernando Alonso get a penalty for it. And we're talking about people who can get away with murder? Are you joking? This is utterly, utterly ridiculous. Now, I'm not saying that Max is perfect in every way, because no driver is perfect in every way. But the hypocrisy in George Russell's statement here to say that everyone else is getting away with the stuff that he is getting away with is mental. Utterly, utterly mental. But the beef has been fun for Formula One, and we always like it when people are throwing shade at each other. Bit of drama for you to end the season, but yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ. George Russell, you've got 3 wins. Max Verstappen's got 4 world titles. It's just like, you're not in the same league. You drive at the same time. You're not in the same competition. It's just like, look at yourself. Because I know for sure that George and Mercedes have been working on this statement for a week. And not once did they go, what this stuff could apply to you, George. Oh well. Anyway, let's move on So happier news, everybody, for Max Verstappen, because it was announced this morning that Max Verstappen's girlfriend, Kelly Piquet, is pregnant. It would be her second child, Max's first child. So congratulations to Max Verstappen and Kelly Piquet. I look forward to talking about the Verstappen-Piquet child in their F1 season in 2044. Should be very exciting. And I think Max Verstappen has had a lot of experience with a crying baby this weekend with George Russell, so he can use that going forward when he becomes a father. So congratulations to both of them, and hope they're all very happy and have a very healthy baby in the future. So, shall we talk about Sergio Perez, our favourite man to talk about? Is he staying? Is he going? Nobody knows. ESPN are reporting this week that this will be the last race for Red Bull, and Christian Horner is making it sound like it is a Sergio Perez decision. Now, I did see an interview with Horner after the Qatar Grand Prix, I think it was with Sky, where he was basically saying, oh, this is Sergio's decision to make if he feels like it's the end. It's his. Like, no, you're the boss. It's your decision to make. If he should go, it's time for him to go. And ESPN are reporting that it is time for him to go. Then Sergio Perez's dad goes on Instagram, he's like, do not believe the lies, he's staying. And then Sergio's over the weekend, you're like, oh yeah, I'm not going anywhere. So who knows what's going on with Sergio Perez? Once again, we've had this story now for 2 years. I'm not going to believe anything until he's officially gone. We'll see how it is. But someone who is officially gone is Esteban Ocon. He, after the Qatar Grand Prix, it was announced that he was leaving Alpine a race early and will be replaced by Jack Doohan this weekend, who's bringing his F1 debut forward by one race. Esteban Ocon has put a statement out this week, basically thanking everyone for all the work that they've done. But there's a sad twinge to it as well, because he says in the statement that he now can no longer go to the factory and thank everyone at their end of season thing, which is very upsetting. For a guy who's been part of that Alpine team for years now, a very, very long servant of that team, a bit of respect, I think, is deserved. It doesn't matter what you think of Ocon as a driver or how you rate his skills. He's been there for a long time. He's brought Alpine their one win. I know they had wins as Renault or Benetton or whatever it might be, but in the brand of Alpine, there is one win, and it comes from Esteban Ocon, as well as podiums. That Monaco podium he had last year, absolutely fantastic. He deserves the respect. And he hasn't been shown it, and he won't get to say thank you. He's also released pictures of what would have been his helmet this weekend, which is a tribute to that original Alpine F1 car, that beautiful blue, red, and white one. And it, says thank you on the back as a thank you to the team and the staff. So, it's very sad that he doesn't get to have these moments of, finality. And I still don't really understand why they've done it. I mean, Jack Doohan gets one more race, which, having experience is always a good thing. And the more experience you have as a rookie is always good. But, I think that should have been the moment for Ocon to say goodbye. But it's not the end for Ocon. We'll see him back in Australia come February, March next year. So that'll be fine. Sticking with Alpine now, though, Jack Doohan, of course, was the reserve driver for Alpine, but he'll be making his move to the full-time role, so a new Alpine reserve driver is needed, and it comes in the form of Paul Aron. Now, this was quite a surprising one, because he was not a Renault junior driver. He's not been affiliated with Renault in any way. He was a Mercedes junior driver until November last year. Now, Mercedes dropped him, and he went into F2 this year with no F1 affiliation at all. And for a lot of the start of this season was leading the F2 championship. It's all kind of fallen by the wayside for him a bit. I think he's still technically in contention for the title, but looking very, very unlikely for him. But yeah, he is now the new Alpine reserve. But when you think about it, it all makes sense, because Oliver Oakes, who is the new Alpine team principal, was the team principal of Hitech, which is the team that Paul Aron currently drives for in Formula 2. So there is the connection there. Oliver Oakes knows Aron quite well. He was there with him at the start of this F2 season when he was doing so well. So he's seen Aron at his best and wants to help him continue throughout motorsport and have that another connection to F1. So Paul Aron, now Alpine affiliated, will be the reserve driver throughout next year. So good for him, good for Paul Aaron. Looking forward now to 2030, because that is how long the Chinese Grand Prix has been extended to. So 2030, so the next 4 seasons of Formula One will have the Chinese Grand Prix on the calendar. Now, the Chinese Grand Prix came back this year, of course, after being missing for a few years due to COVID, different reasons, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, great track, a historic track as well, a track that's been around for a long time now, a lot of good races there. So glad to see it continuing. Another track that has been given an extension is the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. Has been extended, but only to 2026, and then they will leave the Formula One calendar. Now, this one I think is a big shame. I like Zandvoort a lot. That is another track of a lot of historic races, but obviously has had a huge gap. So I think it ran throughout the 70s and 80s. I can't remember when the last race was there. I think, off the top of my head, I want to say 86, but I could be wrong on that one. But yeah, had a huge gap away, but then came back in 2021, of course, with the rise of Max Verstappen, a very popular Dutch driver the most successful Dutch driver ever. I think the only Dutch driver to ever win a race. So he came back, and of course the Dutch interest spiked up again, brought in from 2021. I think we've had some great races there. It's a great track. So the first race at Zandvoort was in 1952. It ran there, not every year, but consistently until 1985. So I was very close. 1985 was the last race. So that one then, of course, went away until 2021. So yeah, it'd be a shame to see Zandvoort go, because I think not only is it a great track, but those Dutch fans are incredible. So that'll be missed out as well. I'm hoping that by the time we get to 2026, maybe some things might have changed and they can change their mind and go from there. But yeah, be ashamed to see the Dutch Grand Prix leave our calendar. Now, before we move on, let's quickly touch on F1 Academy, because it's been officially announced that Nina Gademan will be a full-time driver for F1 Academy next year, along with the Alpine team. Abby Polling was part of the Alpine team representative for F1 Academy this year. Of course, she's won the title, so she'll be moving on. Nina Gademan taking her place as the Alpine representation in F1 Academy. Now, Nina Gademan was the wildcard driver for the Dutch Grand Prix, and we had that, and as it stands, is the highest scoring wildcard driver we've had all season. So she was exceptional in the drive that she had. So looking forward to see what she can do next year, alongside so many others, including Ella Lloyd, who was another great wildcard driver at the Singapore Grand Prix. So there's a few really good wildcard drivers who've got full-time seats going into next year. We'll have to wait and see. I think Leah Block has been confirmed today to still be at F1 Academy for next year. We're building quite a good grid, and there'll be more cars on the grid for next year for F1 Academy, because High Tech have confirmed that they will join the grid as well with 2 full-time drivers, and they will run the wildcard driver from next year as well. So big change at F1 Academy, building up to what should be a very fun 2025 season. Looking forward to 26 now, and of course Cadillac will be joining the Formula One grid. They have now confirmed that Graham Loden will be the team principal for the Cadillac F1 team. Now, if you think you've heard that name before, you may have done. He was previously the CEO of the Marussia Formula One team. If you think back to, when were Marussia in Formula One? Was it like 2012? Around you had like Marussia, Caterham, HRT as the 3 bad teams at the bottom of the grid. Hopefully Cadillac will not follow in Marussia's way from there. But yeah, we have now got a head of the team, the face of the team in terms of press and all that kind of stuff. So Graham Loden will be joining for 2026. And now looking ahead to the race weekend this weekend, because Charles Leclerc had a good FP1. More on that in a little bit. But of course, going into this race, Ferrari's still in contention for the Constructors' Championship, but it's not looking good, because McLaren look quite a bit faster in the practice sessions, and Charles Leclerc has been handed a 10-second grid penalty, 10-place grid penalty already for exceeding the battery allocation on his Ferrari. He seemed to have quite a few issues in FP1, took a while for the car to get out there, but they seem to have fixed it, but also given him a new battery. So no matter where Leclerc qualifies, he'll be out of the top 10 for the start of the race. We'll have to make quite the big comeback And then on top of that, they have quite the points difference from McLaren. So it's looking more and more likely a McLaren Constructors' Championship win as we sit here right now. But anyway, it's time, everyone, for Special Helmet Street. Now, last week, if you watched the preview, I was bragging a little bit about how I've been messing around with OBS to do these cool fade transitions. And I clicked the fade transition to go to show the helmets for Special Helmet Street, and my microphone stopped working. Well, I fixed that now. So here we go. The fade transition. Deploy. Wow. There we are. And you can still hear me as well. Unbelievable stuff. Right, here is Special Helmet Street. Starting with this one for Zhou for what could very well be his final F1 race. Pretty cool helmet here with the Polaroids of all different moments throughout not just his F1 career but his life in general. Him and Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton here. Him as a kid going to see the Chinese Grand Prix all those years ago. The time he finished 14th for the Chinese Grand Prix and they gave him his own special thing. Lots of images of his cat are on this one as well. So yeah, lovely little tribute helmet there for Zhou Guanyu. This is the one that Esteban Ocon would have been running if he was actually running. But yeah, that beautiful, I think, was it the 2021 Alpine? That was the blue, white and red. Oh, it was incredible. I absolutely loved it. One of the best looking F1 cars there has ever been. He's been paying tribute to with this look here. And then the back of it says, Messi, thank you. And then there's images of this one here is when he won in Hungary. That's the Brazil podium, the Monaco podium, and then that one looks like it was a Renault rather than Alpine, maybe. But I don't even know what race that was. I'm trying to look at the hat. No idea. If you know, leave it in the comments. What podium was that on Esteban Ocon's helmet? But yeah, a wonderful tribute helmet that will never, ever be raced. Now, Valtteri Bottas, of course, could be having his last F1 race of his career, and he is a man who loves a special helmet, but he's gone incredibly simplistic for his final one. Just this very simple silver helmet. The sponsors are on there in little stickers, very subdued, and at the top, just the two words, what's next? So this has been his big thing for the last few weeks, what's next? He's got a clothing line with what's next on it. I think it's also helping a charity for people who have recently been made unemployed, which is a great little tie-in for him there as well. So, Valtteri Bottas, known more recently for being bombastic, has just gone for a simple one, but it still looks pretty good there. George Russell's got a special helmet here paying tribute to Lewis Hamilton at his last Mercedes F1 race weekend. The two of them in cartoon mode on the back of his helmet, and the very top features that iconic photo of George Russell waiting for Lewis Hamilton to give him an autograph where Russell was a kid, and the two of them on the podium there as well. So great little helmet there from George Russell. Lewis Hamilton, of course, is a special helmet for this weekend. Going back to his classic purple and yellow, I think that was like 2021 mix there, but also the red Mercedes, would you call it a star? I don't know what you'd call it, but the red one, paying tribute to Niki Lauda, of course, who was a huge part in Lewis moving to Mercedes in the first place, and then was a massive mentor through him through the years that they were together. And then on the back, it's saying Danke. I didn't know. Danke. I didn't speak German, but it means thank you. Again, so thank you to Mercedes from Lewis Hamilton there. Very nice. Then the final one we have is this one from Kevin Magnussen. His last F1 race weekend, and his helmet full of pictures of his family, his wife and his kids, and it's got their names on the back as well. So lovely tribute helmets all around for Special Helmet Street. The final Special Helmet Street of the year. There it is, everyone. We're done. We're moving on to the final upgrade corner of the year. Now, I didn't think there would be one this weekend, but there is. Well, there's two teams who brought upgrades this weekend. Firstly, the Racing Bills have brought a new front wing. Don't know much about it, but from what I've seen, it looks like they're looking towards it being kind of a step into the upgrades for 2025. They're just testing out a few last things for moving forward next year, so maybe that's one to watch. And of course, Stake F1 team Kick Sauber, they got their first points finish of the year last time out in Qatar. They're looking for one more before they finish it off. They've got a new floor body and rear corner. So there you go. that is the final upgrade corner as we go into the practice roundup. So FP1, lot of rookies in this, as is kind of tradition now at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix for FP1. So Luke Browning of Williams was in there. Arthur Leclerc was in for Ferrari with Charles Leclerc in the other car. The first time ever in F1 history that two brothers drove for the same team in an F1 session. So that was a very cool moment for the two of them there. Ayumu Iwasa was in there for Racing Bills. Isaac Hadjar was in Max Verstappen's Red Bull. There was Rio Hirakara, who I don't know much about, to be honest with you, but he was driving for the McLaren Junior. I think he's more from the world of endurance racing, which is my blind spot when it comes to just racing in general. But yeah, he was driving the McLaren. Drugovic was in the Aston, and I think that was it for our rookies, but always good to see the rookies out in the car. And Jack Doohan, he was in the Alpine, but he's in this weird crossover point of rookie / full-time driver. So Jack Doohan was also there. But yeah, when it came to that one, Charles Leclerc had issues for a lot of it. It took him a long time to get out there. But in the end, he got some good laps, finished top of the leaderboard. Lando Norris was P2, Hamilton 3, and George Russell in P4. Then, as we go into FP2, it was all of our full-time drivers, and that one was dominated by the McLaren lads. Lando Norris P1, Oscar Piastri P2, Nico Hülkenberg in a shocking P3. Sainz was 4th, Hamilton 5th, Leclerc down in 6th. Red Bull looking once again off the pace at the start of a race weekend. We had Sergio Perez was 14th, Max Verstappen in 17th. Verstappen very vocal on the radio again that, the car just was not to his liking. They're trying to get that setup fixed, of course, to go forward in the weekend. But another race weekend we go into here where Red Bull on the back foot from the start. But, at this point, you can't count them out. We saw in Qatar, they were nowhere, and then they won the bloody race. So who knows how that's going to go from there. But as we sit here right now, it is massively advantage McLaren in the weekend where they can secure the F1 Constructors' Championship. So let's go into the predictions now, because it's already been a long video. Let's get on with it now. My first prediction is that McLaren will win the Constructors' Championship. They already have quite a considerable lead, so I think they can just secure that, especially with the clear of that 10-place grid penalty. The only way it could really be interesting is if one of the McLarens or both McLarens had a technical issue, But yeah, I don't see it. What is really interesting is there's only 9 points between Leclerc and Norris in the Drivers' Championship. So if Norris was to have some kind of engine issue which caused him to DNF, there's a big chance that Norris could have this season where he was competing for the F1 title and finishes third, sorry, not ninth. It'd be 9 points. But yeah, I think only a technical DNF could cost McLaren the Constructors' Championship at this point. And speaking of technical DNFs, that goes into my second prediction, and that is at least 2 of the drivers who are having their final race won't finish the race. Now, this is a thing that is always in my head when it comes to final races, because I think, if you look at the likes of Jenson Button, Kimi Räikkönen, they're the two that come to my mind straight away. When drivers have their last race, something happens, and they just don't finish it. I was very surprised when Sebastian Vettel finished his last race, because something always pops up, which means that when it's your last one, you don't finish. So I'm saying at least 2 of the drivers who are having their last race won't finish it. So that is Magnussen, Bottas, Zhou, maybe Perez and Colapinto. So keep an eye on them. I think 2 of them are going to DNF this race weekend. So there you go. That is the preview. We'll be back tomorrow for all things qualifying. On Sunday, we'll have all things in the race, F1 Academy and F2. Huge weekend of F2. Currently, Hadjar and Bortoleto separated by half a point, but the F2 champion will be crowned this weekend, so that's incredibly exciting to see what happens there. Driver racings will be here on Monday. When the F1 season's over, we got loads of videos to come throughout December, into January, February, then into the 2025 season as well. So subscribe for all that, and of course, the advent calendar is going to be there. Oh, there's so much stuff. I can't believe it, and it's all top-notch. Until then, though, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Goodbye.